I'm looking forward to leading us all in a meditation first. I want to tell you the intent of the meditation before we get started. With opening the subtle body system and the various ways that the subtle body system has the ability to communicate, and how it communicates directly through transformation energy. There are many schools of thought on the subtle body system, from the chakras to Chinese medicine with Sanjiao and Qigong, to our Western medicine and the fascia, to masculine and feminine attributes, to the archetypes, and holistically, just what I've come to understand is the subtle body system really communicates through the ability to transform. It acts as a communication transformation system. Communicates through metaphor. Metaphor allows the subtle body to open in multi-dimensional meanings of how a line, a phrase, a myth, a symbol relates to you. So as we approach the death of the maiden, which will reframe that a little bit to say the purification of the maiden, I really want you to just start thinking of your own transformation energy and how the maiden is being transformed through what we call death into rebirth, which is ultimately an alchemic purification process. So let's start by dropping into a meditation. Just getting comfortable, closing your eyes. Hopefully won't last longer than 15 minutes. Sometimes I write too much. Just starting to drop into the breath. Deep breath into the belly. Belly expands, rib cage, chest opens, maybe the shoulders fall back. And as you exhale, shoulders, chest, ribs, belly expand. Inhale, expanding the belly, ribs, chest opens, shoulders fall back. Exhale all the way back down to your root. Inhale, transversing up the chakra system, all the way up. From the sacral to the solar, the heart, the throat. Find yourself in the crown. And exhale, let it all go. We're going to start at the top in this meditation, finding ourselves in the crown chakra. Bright, white, a luminous light. Your connection to source lives here, all the way at the top. And as you start to exhale down to the third eye, find yourself in the throat, and eventually into your heart, and stay there. Yogic philosophy will say that the intellect of the masculine lives in the upper three chakras, crown, third eye, throat, until you find yourself in the bright, green, luminous glow of the Anahata chakra. The cherishing mother lives here. Yogic philosophy will say that the feminine from the lower three chakras meets the masculine in the heart. Breathe in this deep, luminous, bright green glow of the heart. Kuan Yin, the mother of compassion. Green Tara, the mother of the Bodhisattvic teachings, Mother Mary, Mother of creation, as the creative child, Mary Magdalene, divine union, all lives here in the heart. Every time we meet our maidens in the underworld, we start in the heart. Green Tara, Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, Mary Magdalene live here. Only when we find ourselves in the heart do we begin to transverse down to the lower three chakras. The lower three chakras, the solar, the sacral, the root, the dark mother lives here. The apocalyptic mother, the apocalypse, to reveal what has been hidden. That shatters the stone of Medusa, where death is in service to life. Choosing life lives here, a sacred rage from the solar to the root. Persephone and Demeter, the mother of the grain, the daughter of the seasonal change, live in your lower three chakras. The mother who built the temple to grieve the maiden, the daughter of her own maturing process. It is in the lower three chakras we visit the story of Persephone, cast to the underworld by her father, by Zeus, by the power over dominance of our own masculine that summoned her to silence, that acted on the daughter as a commodity of a sick narrative. Or was it a different story with Persephone? Was it Persephone like Inanna that went on her own venture with her sword of truth to her own underworld because the pangs of transformation were calling her to death of an old way of living, to eat the fruit of the underworld, to honor her own seasonal changes of life, 7 layers deep? It is in the lower three chakras we find Artemis. She is the deer that hunts the deer. She who kills herself is somehow a messenger for the destiny that was hers from the beginning. The solar plex illuminates the bright yellow. Kali, Chinnamaste, Durga live here. The sacral, Hathor, Ishtar, Isis, Inanna lives here. It is in the sacral we find Inanna, the story from the great above to the great below, to reclaim her feminine power into the cave of her body, to remember the dismembered pieces of what has been forgotten in her own femininity. Live here in your body. She who hangs on the pangs of death, naked and vulnerable, to find her own truth, 7 layers deep in the underworld of her own body. Live here. As we transverse all the way down to the root, Black Madonna lives here. The mystery of the bleed, the roots and shoots of your foundational relationships, the distortions of the maiden live here. Mother complex and Mother consciousness lives here, where we give back the lowercase b, the birth mother, for the capital G, the great mother, to open in the subtle body system and penetrate every cell of our body, to purify the lineage in the root, from the root, to reveal what has been hidden in the ancestry. The power of the feminine lives here. Breathe in from your root. Expand your belly. Feel its bright red luminous glow. Exhale to every cell of your body from here. But why? Why metaphor? Why storytelling through the subtle body? Metaphor meaning a transformer that connects the psyche and soma as one. Metaphor, a symbol that is part matter and part spirit. A physical picture indicating a spiritual condition. Metaphor is a gift of the transformative feminine, the energy that connects psyche and soma. Life without metaphor for the feminine is intolerable.
Mm-hmm.
Metaphor is the language of the Virgin, the language of transformation. Now imagine your subtle body system as one whole. See it glowing, glowing with transformation energy like fire. Fire that burns through the old to feed the new. Yogic traditions will call it the nadis, 72,000 tubes that connect every major energy center or chakra through the entire body. 72,000 tubes. The nadis are to the chakras what the veins are to the organs. Feel the transference of energy here, where energy flows like the sea of conscious femininity, like the amniotic fluid of the sea, the same sea that lives in you and me, controlled by the tides of the moon, controlled by the tides of the mother. Chinese medicine will call it sanjiao, like saran wrap that wraps around each organ individually. Imagine saran wrap around your liver, your lungs, your heart, your kidneys, your stomach, small intestines, and large. And then imagine more saran wrap that bulks the organs and holds them together as one. This is where transformation energy lives, glowing and pulsing as the subtle energy waves of memories and consciousness move through your system and then wraps around your entire body like skin. Western medicine will call it fascia tissue. The same skin that sheds and recreates itself one cell at a time over the course of 7 years. And here we are again, 7 layers deep. Anana. As each cell dies into itself, opening a portal of transformation consciousness with every recreation of itself, but only after death. Here lies the Virgin, transforming every piece of you with every breath. And you don't even have to say yes. It runs its own course. The river that leads to your own sea of conscious femininity in a woman's body. Breathe deep. Your subtle body, your body consciousness is awakening organically. Inhale deep. Audible exhale, let it go through every cell of your body. And start to notice the natural rhythm of your breath happening organically as conscious femininity opens through every cell of your body. You start to wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes and allowing the light between two worlds to seep back in. Om Marichaye Namaha, your eyelids, the crack between two worlds. As you come back into the space, maybe gazing off in the distance before you look back at the screen. And for those of you that are available to turn your cameras on, I welcome you to do so now. Gazing upon the eyes of your sisters in the cohort. And before we dive into words, I'd love to just open the floor for the feels. That meditation brought anything up for you, or maybe dropping a one-word check-in in the chat. I always like to gauge the energy of the group. How are you feeling today? Grateful. Thank you, Nicola. Grounded. Thank you. Calibrated. Beautiful. Tranquil. Love that, Marta. Present. Grounded. So we're going to talk about in the body, grief-titude. Yeah, I feel that lit up. Beautiful. We're going to talk about the death of the maiden, and immediately I want to reframe the death to say the purification process of her programming. Yes, death is occurring, but not without life also turning in on itself for the purpose of your body's natural organic capability to purify itself when we witness programs that are no longer serving us. And so we've done a lot of work that can feel very deep. The attributes of the maiden from insecurity to inner security, identifying the maiden's desire for quantity, where the mother rests in quality, or the maiden's fragile nature to witness the mother's inner power or relentlessness in her knowing. From vanity to raw, unearthed, wild femininity. From hyper-independence to interdependence. Hypersexuality to inner sensuality. Reactivity to responsiveness. Seeking out to seeking in. What is everyone thinking to how am I feeling? I don't know to let me sit with that until I do know. And we can talk about the language, but there's this space that occurs in between the vernacular, in between the vocabulary, and this space in between is the bridge. And it's the bridge from mother complexes of the maiden to mother consciousness of the mother. But the bridge is also a death as we cross the bridge, as we sit in our own purification process. Old patterns die, new relating patterns form. And there's this space of the in-between that Maureen Murdoch will talk about. Don't abort your own rebirth. Stay on the bridge from the old to the new, from not knowing to maybe knowing a little bit along the way. Don't abort your own rebirth. Stay on the bridge until you need to, and the bridge often feels like death. It's hard to hold. And I will tell you that it's the purpose of the underworld that a piece of the maiden dies through the progressive stages of maturity that occur through the descent. In the underworld, in her inner world, it is a process of initiation, of grief and relief. And the mother wants your fullness, so your smallness has to die. It's a lot of grief in that. So if it feels like grief, you're doing it right. And again, yet the maiden doesn't actually die. Rather, it's a process of purifying her programming. Your maiden will never die. She's the seed of your creative genius in her authentic nature. I don't know about you, but I would love to keep the pure potential of the seed of my creative genius alive. But everything that was keeping her small, well, that I can let go of. But letting go is also a process, because it's a process of repatterning with yourself. Like the trees that shed its leaves in the seasonal changes of autumn, it's a re-leafing process. Re-leafing leads to relieving. And the leaves hit the soil of the roots, and the mother begins composting her old stories for new life to spring, eating the leaves at the floor of her feet immediately. There's no terror in this for the seasonal changes of life. It's organic. Only relief to relief life. Wisdom integrated in after so many seasons passed, and the innate wisdom for what roots will sprout. It's innate wisdom. Your body knows innately with letting go, with new rooting into new patterns, that new sprouts will emerge. And the fear and the scarcity and the lack, that's not organic. There's no terror in the organic process. Where we find terror is what we've inherited from the sick culture's process. Grief and relief for each petal that drops from her bloom. like the flower. We're all imperfect replicas of the perfect idea of what is natural in the life, death, and rebirth cycles of our lives. Just as you are allowed to be afraid of letting go, you are also allowed to equally trust the unknown. The power of the feminine lives in trust, in the unknown, and the capability to hold both. The fact that you are afraid and the fact that you will live. The mother is a paradox. She's a paradoxical nature in that sense. Both are allowed to exist at the same time. The maiden who is scared and the crone who lights the soul's candle at every waking day. Can you hold both? I know it's hard. I've lived it too. Where maiden consciousness says yes to everything that is new, which is kind of new and it's kind of fun to say yes to everything that is new, forgetting how difficult the in-between is, the gestation may be. It's kind of like deathbed wisdom, but it's birthside knowledge, naivety, amnesia of the pain. We're going to try it again because we forgot how painful it was. We're going to go on our descent again because we forgot how painful the last time was. We're going to expand again, but only through major contraction because maybe we forgot how painful the last contraction was. We're going to push our own selves out of our womb, our next version of life to bloom. Yet if the flower represses its bloom, its change, well, then it no longer screams to live, it simply dies. Because some will say even the blossoms at the break of dawn scream in agony at the turn of night to day when coming into its fullest bloom. So if a flower represses its bloom, well, I don't know about you, but I might choose to scream in agony to live versus dying. Don't let things die the way the wounded maiden did, without relational awareness of others, but more so of yourself, relating to yourself. How many times did you push through wounded maiden attributes at the expense of the relationship with yourself? Without the metaphors of life that opens consciousness back to primal femininity. Primal femininity is relational. The mother follows the path of feminine initiation that will release her wounded attributes into psychological freedom. This is why we descend into the body to release, to find psychological freedom that is ailing us inside. We must leave the father's house to enter the mother's garden, to find your own Eden. The more we mother our maidens, the more we strengthen the attributes of the mother, the more we cultivate the attributes of the mother within ourselves. It's the mother muscle. The more we tell her, not now, take a seat, I don't have time, the more she actually rules the unconscious and subconscious from a wounded and stuck state. You don't even know it's happening. You're just reacting that way. So it's a process of bringing the unconscious to conscious awareness so that we can relieve and relief our own programming. Let it go. But you have to see it to let it go. This is why we descend. This is the purification process of the maiden. These are the many deaths that occur naturally. Remember, every cell of your body in that transformation energy through the nadis, through the sanjiao, through the subtle body system, every 7 years, every cell of your body is dying into itself. 7 layers deep. It's happening organically. Can you go there like Persephone instead of cast out by her father into the underworld against her will? Can you get on your steed like Anana with your sword of truth and choose to go there yourself every time the unrest is coming up from within? A deep sense of unrest means something is trying to come up from the basement. Fear and chaos in the rational mind can be stilled by order, by bringing order to what is unconscious. Remember, the power of the feminine lives in chaos. So when you have a deep sense of unrest and chaos in the mind, what is coming up from the basement? Meet your maiden there. It's time to die, to see, to reveal what has been hidden, to purify her program. It's a gift. I'd like to get back to the seat of my creative genius, not the deep unrest of a sick culture's mind. If it's hysterical, it's historical. It's rooted in the past. Find your roots in the now. Go there, descend deep. Every layer holds a key attribute of conscious femininity. Where's the key? Crisis is a dangerous opportunity, an invitation to change your life. It doesn't always feel like an invitation. Sometimes it feels like a crumble. Again, like a death. And letting go is often the biggest pill to swallow. It takes the same amount of energy to ask out as it does to seek within. And it is practicing this muscle of seeking in, because in the Sikh culture, we are seriously atrophied at self-inquiry. To go out of the ordinary, the maiden in the castle, into the extraordinary, the mother in the enchanted woods. We've been taught the enchanted woods are scary. They are not. It's the mystery. Anything can happen there. It's magic. The darkness, the void, the soil of your roots, the seeds of the unknown. The acorn has everything it needs to become the oak tree. You have everything that you need for conscious femininity. It's already within. Might be lying dormant. There might be a fog between you and it. You might not have words to describe it because it's experiential knowledge that you will know when you feel it multidimensionally through that transformation energy of every cell of your body. Sarah of Magdalene says, only the fearless know what I mean. The princess had to die to become the queen. Yet we are not here to kill the maiden. We are here to purify her programming. Well, let's all take a breath. And I would love to take a breath and open the floor for any shares with what may come up for that. Maybe someone has something that is dying within their maiden today, and they don't really know how to hold it, or maybe have words. Maybe you'd like to journal later, what is dying in my maiden today? Always referring back to your worksheet of the maiden attributes and the mother qualities. I'd invite that for the rest of the year together, always referring back to that worksheet, because often what's dying in us can feel very alive within us. If I'm in a fit of jealousy, insecurity, impatience, it's totally camouflage with just who I am. And I have to constantly remind myself that that particular attribute that is feeling like anti-life, that is weighing me down, that is keeping me small, that makes me feel like I don't have a voice, is actually not authentically mine, but it's camouflaged as mine. I think it's me. And it's time to weed the garden and remind myself that that's not my authentic nature, that there's a deep unrest coming up, and maybe something wants to come out. So what happens after we descend? When we go there and we meet the maiden? What's the point? What's the purpose? Why am I doing this again? Will it ever stop? How many times do I have to go down? The power of the feminine lives in this non-linear cyclic ability to go down and down and down time again. And every time she goes down, down, and down, eventually she comes up, up, and up, and then down, down, and down, and then up, and then down, and then up, up, down, down, up, 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 down, 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 until eventually the down and the up become level with one another. And we find that psychological peace. And we find a resilience in our body that no longer labels the down and the up as good or bad, but it just is where we are today. And that's okay. As a woman returns from the descent, there is an act of reclamation of her body. And the reclamation of the body embodies a sacredness of the feminine for all of us. There's a sacred dimension within you that must be embodied to reclaim, this is my body. Not that of the sick culture. My body. Don't touch it. Mine. The distortions of the maiden's voice, still held in a mother or a father complex, is either destructively judgmental or completely repressed within herself. By a show of Has anyone felt that destructively judgmental voice? Or a completely repressed one at that? Until the feminine is firmly connected to the musculature of the body, it lacks a visceral affirmation that says, this is of value to me, this is who I am, and this is my truth. We must connect to the body to do that. And we cannot connect to the body if we have aspects of our maiden still cast out or suppressed in. Right? We are reconnecting with all aspects of her, even the ones we are destructively judging as ugly, not needed, not acceptable, insecure. However, those maiden attributes resonate for you, we have to connect with those too. Why? To find our seed of creative genius, to get back to the creative child. As long as our maidens are castrated from the body, rejected, or abandoned into the depths of our underworld, conscious femininity is bound to immature developmental levels. The immature developmental levels that they were castrated out at. What does that mean? It means she's frozen in time. And you are not developing in your conscious femininity from that day forward. So go back to the whale's belly and pick up the pieces. The only person you owe that to is yourself. This is the journey to wholeness, to pick up all the pieces that we've castrated out. This is the process of individuation that Carl Jung speaks of. The process of individuation is simply the journey to your own wholeness by picking up all parts that we have once castrated out and bringing them back and integrating them in and connecting them to the body. The parts of you that remain in rejection of the mother are also the parts that remain as a perpetual maiden waiting for a mother. This is why it's so important, Black Madonna, to give back the lowercase b, to cultivate the attributes of the capital G, Great Mother, because the parts of us that are still in rejection to our own mothers is where we remain perpetual maidens in waiting for a mother. Maureen Murdoch. The reclamation is the descent, and it's not done quietly. It stirs up the fucking dust. And a woman who has the courage to descend into the realms below the surface of her ordinary awareness will find feelings that she has chosen not to experience before. Unless we become overwhelmed with emotions lurking in the depths. Those emotions are the emotions at 12 that we decided we didn't have time for at 10, 8, 7. I like to call mine the angry teenager. She started at 2. My dad says I was taken out of the womb too early by a cesarean section, and I had been pissed off ever since. That's the story I carried. That's the story the Father gave to me. What story did the Father give to you? If you saw the Father as the sick cultural narrative, what story did the Father give to you about your body? About your menstruation or your growing breast or your wearing of makeup or not wearing of makeup in this male lens or misogyny? What stories did the father give to you? What stories did the mother give to you? Where are you in rejection of the mother still? Where are you a perpetual maiden waiting for a mother? We get to meet our maidens and ask ourselves these questions so that we can purify her programming. It was never hers. As she peels off the well-worn masks she presents to the collective fathers, being nice and polite, compliant and agreeable, she may find daggers of rage about sacrificed time in those stories, confusion and injustice about betrayals left unaddressed within her body. And now we might have to address those betrayals within the body, wherever she is stuck in time, and find sadness for having abandoned her for so long. By a show of hands, has anyone met their maiden in a rageful fit or saddened, abandoned for so long? What are you doing here now? You left me. Am I going to die? You didn't protect me. It's hard to hold. But you are also the mother, and in the paradox of conscious femininity, you can hold both. One of the greatest challenges of the heroine's journey is to experience the deep sadness a woman feels about the separation from her own feminine. To allow herself to name and grieve this loss in whatever way is appropriate for her, to release it and then move on. I think that's the hardest part. A, the release, and B, the moving on. Because as we move on, as the maiden dies or purifies in that way, we are moving on from a piece of ourself. And it's an intricate process to move on from those pieces and not leave them feeling abandoned again. So at what point is it time to move on? Your body knows. Your body knows. The myth of Inanna. If I hadn't created my own world, I would have died in everyone else's. Yet you have to let the her in hero die in order to truly live from she. And I don't know about you, but my life was really dark when I was on autopilot of my underdeveloped masculine attributes. But the cure for the pain is the pain. Rumi. The loss of the life you had can be disorienting. By a show of hands, who is sitting in a loss of life that feels disorienting? It's the loss of, this is how I show up in the world. It's the loss of, this is how I identify with the world. It's the loss of, this is how I pattern with myself in the world. The biggest relationship that I've experienced is the shift in my own relationship with myself. To live in truth is to burn through 1,000 veils of illusion. Marion Woodman. But the power to not listen to anyone else is available to you. to reject the outer voices and accept the inner invitations. What does that invitation often look like? Crisis, chaos, burning, crumble. Oh, fuck. If I live like this anymore, I'm going to die. And you will. That's the point. But remember, through the transformation energy and through the ability to choose the death mother to choose the dark mother over the death mother, you also have the ability to choose life on behalf of the death. And you know what? You don't even have to choose it, because remember, the cells are dying into themselves. It happens organically. You die into yourself to stimulate new life. Patience is an attribute of the mother. Okay. I'm going to stop right there because I've said enough. And I'm curious if anybody has anything to share.
Sure.